March 9th, 2020. The Event 201 fraud continues. Now, if you're not familiar with the Event 201, that was an exercise uh, uh, sponsored by Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security in partnership with the World Economic Forum, and the Bill Gates Melinda Foundation. And by the way, the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security is owned by Mr. Billenberg. Big coincidence, right? And also the CDC was present, of course. They all participated in this. The exercise illustrated areas where public and private partnerships will be necessary during the response to severe pandemic in order to diminish large-scale economic and societal consequences. Really? So here's the clown show. And before we go into that, let's talk about the World Bank. About the pandemic bonds. Wow. Okay, so you dig into this pandemic bond issued by the World Bank, and it gets a little deeper. But I haven't really dug all the sides of the rabbit holes, but I can tell you right now that it has a few things that's alarming. Okay, the World Bank Group President, Jim Yong Kim. Did I say Khan? Uh-huh. All right, so you read down through all this garbage. You get down here to the distribution types. I'm trying to find out who the major investors are, right? Well, okay, so these ABRD, which is it's a World Response and Development thing, whatever. I'll give it to you a little bit later what that means. Distribution by investor type. They have a Class A and a Class B. Dedicated catastrophe bond investor, 61%, 35.3%. You know what? Let's make this a little bigger, because I don't think you guys can see that small little print. There, how's that? So basically, they did an exercise about the coronavirus, if they had an outbreak. All right, so the World Bank is involved in this through their pandemic bonds. And so you look at the who's going to control what, and then there's this pension fund. Why is there a pension fund? Huh. Pension fund for pandemic bonds. Distribution by investor location for the Class A and Class B. U.S. 27.9% for the Class A, 15% for Class B. Europe, ooh, big chunk right there, 71.8% Class A and 82.9%. And then Bermuda and Japan are really non-players because they have no skin in the game. So, wow. So the U.S. and Europe are the big players being paid out if this bond doesn't get chewed up. And the big losers are Europe. You know, of course, all these links will be down below in the Show Me More box. And if you would like and subscribe to the channel or not. So let's go a little farther. These are the players, okay, of the Event 201. Now, they played out the scenario. They were the main actors involved in discussions of how they would handle this pandemic if it showed up. And that was back in October 2019, this year. Now, this is some of their highlight reels, and you'll probably want to watch every one of these just for fun, but I'm going to play just a little part of it, okay? Let's see how they envision this to play out through the media and everything else once this pandemic hits. Let's just watch it.
The outcome of the CAPS pandemic in Event 201 was catastrophic. 65 million people died in the first 18 months. The outbreak was small at first and initially seemed controllable, But then it started spreading in densely crowded and impoverished neighborhoods of megacities.
Oh no, like
From that
Wuhan?
point on, the spread of the disease was explosive. Within 6 months, cases were occurring in nearly every country. The global economy was in a free fall. The GDP down 11%. Stock markets around the world plummeted between 20 and 40% and headed into a downward cycle of fear and low expectation. Businesses were not borrowing, banks were not lending. Everyone was just hoping to hunker down and weather the storm.
Sound familiar so far? Just like the play you're seeing right now.
Economists say the economic turmoil caused by such a pandemic will last for years, perhaps a decade. The societal impacts, the loss of faith in government, the distrust of news, and the breakdown of social cohesion could last even longer. We have to ask, did this need to be so bad? Are there things we could have done in the 5 to 10 years leading up to the pandemic that would have lessened the catastrophic consequences?
You mean like surrender all nationality of every nation to some organization? WHO, which also is, what does an owl sound make? Oh, what are those evil ones called that have all owls everywhere on their little thing? Worship the wrong red dragon. Hmm. Yeah, if we just surrendered. You know the vaccinations are next, right? Mandatory vaccinations.
We believe the answer is yes. So, are we as a global community now finally ready to do the hard work needed to prepare for the next pandemic?
Yes, I'll be ready to round everybody up, isolate them, take all their civil rights away, and vaccinate the crap out of them, make them even sicker. Unbelievable, these people. Just warms your heart, don't it? Yeah, well, there's a lot more videos you can watch on this page, but you know. Now let's take a look here. This is the current map of the coronavirus outbreak. Okay? It just seems like China just stopped reporting because they're stuck at that number for a long time now. They just keep reporting a few more deaths, you know, no big deal. And, you know, out of those 80,000, 753, well, let's just do the math right here, okay? And let's do a comparative rate. I know this is not as scientific as it could be. Well, let's go ahead and add up 3,024, okay? Plus, how many recovered? 47,585. That gives us a grand number of 50,609. 1 over x, multiplied by the number of deaths. It gives you roughly around a 5.9%, about 6% death rate. Okay, so what if I take this number right here and multiply that times the remaining survivors? Well, let's just roughly figure, let's just kind of ballpark it because I don't feel like going through all that hassle again and calculating those numbers. So let's just say we've got 8,750 and we got 47,500, whatever. Let's just go to, you know, let's just knock off the sevens and the fives. Let's just go for 47. 80 minus 47. Okay? What would that be? 33, right? Let's take that 33 number and multiply it times this percentage of deaths. Because if we have any indication of that, we should see, you know, so we're looking at maybe a couple thousand people dying in China. So we got 5,000 dead. And then we look at the ones, we got a lot of deaths over here in Italy. And we only got 9,172 people infected. 2,000 have recovered. Well, hallelujah. You really want me to do this one? I better do this one for you because you're not going to like what you see on that one. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do the 463 and add that to 2394. Okay? Now, and let's just go ahead and 1 over x and multiply that by 463. Okay. So when I calculated this yesterday, I was looking at a number around 37%. So I'm seeing like 16.2% right now. Now you got to remember, the longer people stay alive, and we're looking at approximately, let's just call it 6,500 people that are still sick so far. But the sick people keep going up on the infected. But the longer that they're living as infected, the more chances are they're going to survive. So if I just take the rough number, let's just clear all this out. Let's take their number of 917, and then let's go ahead and multiply that by 6%. Okay, so at the current numbers, we expect another 550 people to croak. It'll probably be less. So we're probably looking at 1,000 deaths over there in Italy. Okay, so this is the first wave. It might be the second wave in Europe. This might be the first. We know it's split off to L and S virulent strains, and it seems that the L strain is more has more fatalities. But what about this event 201? And you saw how they over here in the video, how they just said, "Oh, this is gonna be the horrible thing ever." And they did stuff about how they need to control fake media and misinformation, and these social platforms really need to step up and make sure that they stop all that fake stuff. Well, to a certain point, some people are reporting this thing's an entire fraud. Some people are reporting this the end of the world. Well, yeah. So investors flee from controversial pandemic bonds with coronavirus set to trigger payout. In other words, the bond lost. Now, remember what remember when we did that little thing right there? Distribution by investor location, U.S. and Europe. So, interesting, isn't that? Of course, this may not be what I think it is. But here's the maturity. Scheduled maturity date, July 15th, 2020. Extendable monthly in whole and part up to maximum of 12 months following the scheduled maturity date. Issue price 100%. Bond. Now, the A's get the 6.5% plus the U.S. whatever, and the B's get the 11% payout. And the A and the B part of it covers only certain things. So the payout, now you got to remember there's a distribution, okay? Dedicated catastrophe bond investor. So the Class A's take 61.7% risk amount of the bond, and the Class B's only get 35% if they have to pay out, so they don't make any money. So what do we think about that? Okay, so you're looking at the final bond size of 225 million, and that tells you that the Class A, if they have to use it for anything like the flu, coronavirus, if that gets paid, they don't get paid. Now the B is only 95 million, and that includes a hell of a lot more stuff, including hemorrhagic fever, Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, the Rift Valley fever, the coronavirus, the Lassa fever, and the filovirus. Notes, will not be fully repaid if events occur. Redemption amount. Okay? So, all these investors put their money in the bonds. The Class A's put in 225 million. The Class B, 95 million, and they get a payoff of 6.5% on the A. I bet nobody's broke this down to you yet, right? The real reason why they say, oh, they're not going to get paid on their bond, pinches are going to be lost and everything else. Muzzle tough, whatever. Give me a break. You guys need to really look into some details before you start parroting stuff, please. I mean, I hear all kinds of stuff about 5G. 5G, fifth generation, that's what it means. And a lot of the fifth generation that people talk about for 5G, there's a lot of the 4G that's already included in that. The only thing is they're going to put up a bunch more antennas and maybe crank up the millimeter waves a little higher, the frequency a little higher, and radiate the crap out of us like they're doing with the smart meters. The smart meters have hurt more people than 5G at this point. However, there's another theory about that, which I kind of explained before. The other theory is that these nanoparticles that they've been releasing, they're full of metals, and they're going to use 5G to track you anywhere you want to. And since you're pumped full of them, guess what? They can track you real time with 5G because they know where you're at any time. You're a dissident. They don't like you very much. In case they really, they're going to fry you because they really love you. Okay? They just love us so much. But have you ever considered another possibility? Instead of little nanorobots and nanoparticles that little machines that create, we have the ability now to 3D print actual biological things, including nanobots and nanoparticles. So now all they got to do is load one up when they're creating a 3D printer, create a real living organism or a virus, whatever they want to create, and make sure they add the right amount of metal to it, or the right amount of chemicals, or the right amount of vaccine. Did you ever stop and think about that? What if they have little nanobots with vaccines in them so they get you even sicker? All part of Doppler for 25 years. Corona. Okay, so the thing I found with the World Bank, and you can dig through all this crap right here, but I'm going to basically take it down to this right here. And I've tried to find the investors, and I haven't found it yet, and I'm not going to dig into that rabbit hole. But this is from the World Bank, okay, and this is about the investors, okay. Now this gets really interesting because it talks about the largest shareholders are U.S., Japan, China, Germany, U.K., and France. The International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. That's what IBRD means. / the World Bank. You look through all this crap and you go all the way down to the end and all that stuff, and finally you get down to the end, and you go down to this other article here, and I'm going to put this in the thing too, and this is about the investor brief. You go all the way down to the bottom here, okay, and then you read this one line. Well, actually, there's a couple lines I want you to look at. The guy that took over used to be the former U.S. Secretary of Treasury. Worked for Reagan, worked for Bush, worked for Trump. The U.S. Secretary of Treasury sits on top of the World Bank's Board of Governors, the World Bank's highest governing body. In fact, he's in charge of the damn thing. The World Bank is treated as an exempt issuer under the U.S. security laws since 1949 in recognition of its status as an international organization in which the U.S. is the largest shareholder with about 17%. Can you say deep state all the way? Hi-ho, hi-ho. We're digging a hole. The United States membership in the World Bank was authorized by the federal statute known as the Bretton Woods Agreement. And what is that agreement? Oh, I'm about to show you. And you're going to be so pissed off when you see it. Council for Foreign Relations. Isn't that wonderful? There's the law right there, and you can read it all for yourself. Acceptance of membership by the United States in the International Monetary Fund. You got the IMF and the CFR all involved in this stuff. People, how long do we have to be involved with the UN, IMF, CFR, the World Health Organization, the CDC, and all these other organizations that are all deep state? All they are is a method to take the wealth out of America. That's all America is a transfer of wealth to other nations, to the world. And we have so many of these stupid things that we need to get rid of. And this would be one of them. We need to get rid of the World Bank. Why do we even let the Chinese on it? Because the Chinese are in it too. Here's the schmuck, David Malpass, worked for Trump. No offense to anybody in the Jewish crowd. I'm not trying to piss anybody off, okay? I'm just pointing this out, that it doesn't matter who you are. There's a whole bunch of deep staters everywhere, Deep staters like Romney. Oh, Romney. I'm not going to hit on the Mormons either because, it's okay. Mormons are generally great people. But this guy right here, president of the World Bank since 2019. He took over in April. Who else took over in April? Somebody in Hong Kong? Oh, who would that be? That would be the chief administrator of Hong Kong. which is paid for by the Chinese party, the CCP. She's deep state all the way too. So's this guy. He has a little thing to do with Bear Stearns for the 6 years preceding its collapse. Sounds like a great guy to run my World Bank, eh? Yeah, I'll put this in there too, David Malpass. Deep state all the way. So Malpass previously served as United Undersecretary of the Treasury for the Internal Affairs under Donald Trump, Deputy Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan, Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under George H.W. Bush. He served as chief columnist at Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns for the 6 years preceding its collapse. He's now president of the World Bank. So this guy's had his hand in the cookie jar of the deep state for a long time. And I bet you, I just got to mention this one more time. The IMF, International Monetary Fund, which is in correlation with the CFR. You dig deep enough, you'll find enough rabbit holes in everywhere. Who's the major investors? Well, I wouldn't be surprised that the major investors of this bond are some of the deep state players. Hell, it might even be Bill Gates himself trying to pull a scammy whammy. I mean, Romney, scammy whammy's been scamming whammy since 2008, even before that, Bain Capital. You really think the Bidens and the Kerrys are smart enough to pull off a laundering money situation? No, it takes a slick man like Mitt Romney to do that through Gopher Black. Oh, did I say that? Oh, I guess they'll have to sue me because guess what? They can't prove I'm wrong. I want to talk about a few things though here. Let's talk about piracy. This is talking about ship piracy. If I had a whole bunch of shit on a ship in the middle of nowhere, just sitting offshore somewhere, and, the world wasn't getting any goods and supplies, I'd be motivated as a pirate to go ahead and board that ship and take the stuff and put it on the black market. So what are we seeing right now? Okay, now we got to look at this right here. This says 07/03/2020. Now the Europeans put their month first instead of in the middle. Okay, so this is the 7th day of February 2020. This happened off the Ivory Coast. Okay, a canoe approached and boarded an anchored offshore tug. Big deal. Okay, this one's on the 5th of March 2020. This one happened over there in Benin. That's just the southern part. Well, I could show you in a minute. I'll show you in a minute. Okay, now this other one here happened in Singapore Straits. Let's get a little closer to let's see. Duty lookout on board the bridge of a boat carrier underway noticed 4 unauthorized persons near the accommodation block. Alarm raised, crew mustered, and Singapore was notified. Hearing the alerted crew of the unauthorized persons escaped. Okay, so now this is every pirate report, every pirate attack across the world. Now here's one over in India. This other one's in Peru. So it keeps going on and on. Here's my point. Let's go to the live map over here. This is where all the piracy things are being indicated. So if we had a bunch of ships sitting off here, we'd have a whole bunch of piracy reports if they were just sitting out there and they had nowhere to deliver the goods, right? So we go to Vessel Tracker. Now Vessel Tracker has every vessel that's you can find in the world that is a major player. For commercial use. When I mean commercial, I mean for business, for companies' use. Anywhere from a tugboat to a livestock carrier to a bulk carrier to an oil tanker. And you can search and find the vehicles here that you're looking for. Let's look at this. Okay, now this is offshore, and this is over here, and this is the Mole Emissary, and that ship's from Hong Kong, and it's headed towards Long Beach. And it's estimated to be there by the 13th of March at 11:30 at night. That's what 23:30 means. They use military time. So you start at 12, and then after 12, you add another number to it and call it 13. If it's 10 o'clock at night, you add 10 to 12, and that's 2,200 hours. So this is going to hit there about 30 minutes before midnight on March 13th at Long Beach. And this is from Hong Kong. It's a container ship. And you look around here and you see all kinds of stuff. Just you know, some of these are. Now the tug should be on there. Okay, so you look at some of these ships here. There's another one from Hong Kong. It's a bulk carrier. Okay. And there's another one right here too. Well, I keep getting hold of that. Let's grab this other one. The African Queen. So that's not from China or Singapore or anywhere else. And some of these they just say this is a satellite position. They don't just say it's a cargo ship. Okay. Which has got me wondering because usually they tell you what it is. So I want stuff here and I don't know where it's coming from. Right. So here's another one. Okay, I think this is somewhere in this is South American country somewhere. I forget what it is. Okay, Albatross Island. It's another bulk carrier. It's headed to Mazanela, Mexico, and it's from China. Actually, Hong Kong. It's a bulk carrier. So I actually got reports that there was nothing being unloaded in Long Beach and in Los Angeles. Eyewitness reports. Even one guy's a crane operator. Okay, works at Long Beach. Very reliable. So you can just kind of pop around on these and see what you can find. Let's see. Here's another one. This one is that's Liberia. I guess you can hover over the flag and it'll tell you where it's from. Another one, Panama. Okay, so some of these just don't, they have their transponders on, but they don't tell you hardly anything. So you can see the ones that are coming, the ones that are going. So if you look hard enough, you'll find stuff from Hong Kong or China. If you get a bite on one, here's one. Let's see where that's from. Marshall Islands, okay. You already saw that one. Anyway, kind of interesting, right? So if there's no ships, the ships are all out here and nobody's delivering to port. And I'm just showing you that they're going to the ports, they're going to destinations already. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Yep. Okay, so enough of that. Remember, the link will be down below. There'll be a lot of links today. I pulled this one up just to take a look at it. Okay. Then I looked at this map. Now this line right here means it's dark, okay, across the world. So all these ships, and I did the cargo and the tankers. Took out all the others. So the green ones are cargo, and the red ones are tankers. I don't care about fishing boats and yachts. But I'm seeing cargo ships over here. Okay? But I'm not seeing anything out here. Now somebody's lying and somebody is telling the truth. Who's lying? Who's telling the truth? Remember this? October 18, 2018, Mr. Bill Gates, whose father was Mr. Eugenics, worked with the Sanger outfit of Planned Parenthood on the Brown Project. You know what that is? Well, it's about the same thing as the CIA and the MI6 over there in Africa, where they injected a bunch of black Africans with the HIV virus, saying they were giving them a vaccination. Somebody's lying here. Do I think people are getting the flu and get sick? Oh yeah, definitely do. Is this really a pandemic? Well, if it was a pandemic, wouldn't they have said it already? Oh, wait a minute, they got that bond. They can't lose their money, right? They got to wait till July 15th. Then they can call it a pandemic after everybody's keeling over. Because this thing's going to spread like wildfire. It's going to be all over the media. Oh, and if you watch this, the videos over here on the Event 201, oh, you'll get all kinds of, you're going to get all kinds of stuff. They even show you the fake media that they did. Okay? And the first thing they're going to do, they talk about trade and travel. They talk about the countermeasures, medical countermeasures, travel, financial discussion like the economic collapse. They've already screwed up the economy so bad and ruined the stock market. We're already going to go into the roaring 20s at the end, where everybody goes off the cliff in 1929. And most of you, do you know what 1929, why that happened? Oh, if you don't, I'm going to tell you right now. What happened was during World War One, when the armistice was signed, Germany was obligated to pay back the entire cost of the war. So there was bonds issued on the war bonds, and Germany had to pay back on those bonds. Well, they just simply said, one day simply said, screw it. We owe this much. We're just going to print a bunch of funny money and pay it off. And they did. And then their currency they got hyperinflation. The currency was worthless. It took a wheelbarrow of money to buy a loaf of bread. But they paid it off. And guess what happened in 1929? The bonds collapsed because they were shit. And it collapsed the stock market because a lot of people bought into the junk bonds, just like they bought into the junk bonds right there before the reset on the real estate bubble. All those bad mortgages, right? What you didn't hear about all those bad mortgages was that was just the housing for residential. The lagging problems that came with it was the industrial real estate. Well, they had laws and provisions so the government had to keep those bonds from collapsing. And it cost the government a lot of money. And that's the only reason why you didn't see a major real estate bust, because if the industrial properties of real estate had been allowed to collapse too, you wouldn't have seen a recovery at all. Somebody's lying and somebody's full of shite. They're full of it, people. They're just playing out Event 201. And do I think that the Purebride Institute, owned by the Queen of England, had a hand in this? Because Bill Gates is totally involved, and the patents all go back to the Purebride Institute over there southwest of London. Oh yeah. Oh, I think they did release something. I don't think it's as deadly as I think it is. I think they just released it. I mean, I think it's worse than the Spanish flu. Okay, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's as bad as people saying it is. And what I think is happening is that they're just playing out 201. Crash the economy with fear, put fear in people, crash the economy, lock down everything through mind control and/or through physical force, through the military or whatever, shutting the entire cities down. They've already done it in China. They've done it in Italy. The U.S. is probably going to be next. Crash the economy, then mandate this thing and hype it up in the media, the fake media, until they convince all the people, the herds that went out there to stores to buy stuff because they didn't listen to people like me to go prep. Constantly be a prepper all the time and make sure you have your preps. Those people, they didn't listen to the herd. They went over there to stores and they were predictive programming. They bought everything on the shelves. They bought as much toilet paper as they could. Forced vaccinations. They invented a one world government. You're seeing the play right here. And the Event 201 is playing right out in front of your face. Event 201 is a fraud enacted upon the populace of this world. And the people in the herd that didn't pay attention to what they were told are following right along with it. You're either going to have to stand up to this thing or we're going to fall. And the future for your children and mine and my grandchildren is going to be shite. You've been warned.